Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 138 of the Xbox Hall of Gamers podcast. This week, I'm joined by Cameron.
Am I? Hello?
Yes. And Keo.
What?
Hello.
I see Keo knows how to introduce himself like a normal fucking human being. I know.
I'm the only one on this podcast that does.
Exactly.
Because you don't introduce yourself.
I don't introduce
again.
myself because, like,
So,
I just,
no.
exactly. Like, if they can't see the name or recognize the voice.
I mean, look, Rooster Teeth's not around anymore. You should just steal Gus's.
Gus is it? Oh, no.
And I'm Matt.
No, I mean, funny, but. Oh, man.
I love it. It was like, what, 100 episodes in before they made that a thing?
Mm-hmm. They just kind of kept it.
And
Yeah.
it's just stuck since, yeah.
This week, we are going to be talking about a bit of news. We've got some stuff about Final Fantasy, some more stuff around like things not coming to Xbox and all that kind of discussion. Some very sad news about platformers. Some good news about platformers too. And we've been playing a few games as well. Cameron's been working on. We've got a new monthly theme. I'm going to be waiting a new clue for the word challenge, so stay tuned. We've got a lot going on. But as always, we do the show live on Twitch. Xbox Hall of Gamers is a place to find us. Come say hi, hang out in the chat. We've got a few people in here at the moment. We've got my wonderful wife. We've got Zach in here. We've got Bulbasaur. We've got Stubby. So yeah, if you want to come hang out, see the show live. Again, I know we do the show at a New Zealand, more centric Australian New Zealand time, so it can be a bit hard to get on. But we usually do the other show or the opposite show more in a sort of more central standard time. So if you miss a week, try the next week. But otherwise, you can catch the show on every audio platform known to man, and also on YouTube, where I upload it each week.
Yes, we do.
We do indeed. All right. Well, we do have a question from our good friend, Mr. Isaac Logic Dad himself, who says, "Hey guys, Super Bob, who is one of our community members, mentioned that it seems that Microsoft is starting to crack down on obtaining codes through certain regions like Turkey and Argentina. What do you think about this, and will it affect you in any way?" He says, "Personally, when I buy games, I often go to code sites, so that really stinks. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, though. Thanks." Thank you for the question.
All right.
Where do we want to start with this? Because I mean, this has been a bit of a this has only really happened in the last couple of days, and there's some conflicting reports about like what's happening, who can buy what.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So maybe we should just talk about the tweet that we kind of saw leading up to this.
Yeah. Do you want to?
So
you got that on hand.
I have it up. It's the Super Bob. He linked all this stuff. So it was by Dupla Kappa, and it says, "I've been told that today Microsoft implemented a regional lock for accounts to prevent people from purchasing games in other regions. For example, even if you have US dollars in your wallet to purchase some locked games by changing a region to a USA, you won't be able to do so." So that's where this kind of started from, I think, or at least a place. So.
Yeah, I know that maybe a few months ago now, there was some talk around how there were some restrictions on gifting from those regions. I think it was like I think it was like maybe the Argentina.
So I have that article, that other article that Super Bob pulled up. So basically, this is from November 22nd, 2022.
Wow. Okay.
On Twisted Voxel. Basically, Xbox removes buy as a gift option from Turkey and Argentina store after seller abuse. So this is some of the bad acting that's kind of gone along with some of this stuff. So Microsoft has removed the option to buy games as a gift from Turkey and Argentina Xbox store after massive seller abuse. The option to buy as a gift was offered for the sake of convenience to customers, but the system has been abused in order to acquire cheaper product keys from Turkey and Argentina, where games are relatively cheaper due to regional pricing. However, now that it has been discovered by Microsoft that the system is being exploited to sell cheaper game keys to people from other regions, the software giant has taken action by disabling the option to buy games as a gift from those regions. So, and it wasn't known if it was temporary or permanent. So that was the kind of stuff that was going on. So,
yeah, and I know that there was a lot of talk like outside of the Xbox community because similar thing happened at Steam at the same time. So I know that Valve.
Yeah, Steam.
Yeah, Cameron, you would know more about it than I
has been going for a while. I want to say turn of this year they did the crackdown on changing it to US dollars for Turkish and Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they no longer had regional pricing.
Yeah. But like the problem, the main problem is in those countries the wage disparity is just so crazy.
Exactly. Like the regional pricing was there for a reason, right? It was basically to make those games affordable to those markets.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. So if you look at like Microsoft is in a lot of countries, and obviously the web extends across like the entirety of their database. So they have to be flexible in all of these regions, which is obviously why there are doorways and pathways to all of these regions
Yeah.
through their systems. And some of that stuff doesn't get caught out until it actually catches up with them and somebody works it out, really. So, and this is kind of that process a little bit. So,
I think in the end of the day, this is a good thing for the devs.
Yeah.
The only issue I potentially see with it, well, this is the thing. When we weren't sure about like Japan and other regions, when we were talking about in Discord, the concern for me was the countries that don't have access to the Xbox ecosystem would be getting shafted then if they, potentially couldn't region swap and buy products from another thing. Because the problem I had back at the start of the Xbox One generation was a lot of the idea at Xbox games were limited to US and Canada.
Yeah, and there were quite a few of them at the very start. They just didn't do regional variants for them.
I would buy gift cards for US and Canada back then, so I could buy those games because I think back then too we were like getting heavily taxed on games and that as well, which I'm okay paying for the price of the games, but it becomes like you think of piracy when it comes to TV. I know a lot of Australians pirate because they don't have access to certain TV shows.
Yeah.
Because they aren't available on streaming services and stuff like that. Not saying it's right, but I'm just saying that the option should exist for...
Yeah, and you've got the geo-locking with Netflix and all that kind of stuff as well. And, and like Microsoft only recently just cracked down on a lot of the VPN stuff. And then added a VPN to Edge. So whether or not that was to quell that and boost their own stuff, I don't know, but
do not know.
Yeah, it kind of, I think, like to your point, Cameron, around this sort of gets similar to that argument of like piracy, right? Where there's the famous quote from, I think it was Gabe Newell, who basically said that like piracy is a supply issue. Really, it's in terms of like it's an accessibility issue in terms of being able to have a product that's good enough that people will pay for it. And I'm not talking about the game so much as I'm talking about their availability and their pricing. And that's why when you started seeing things like Spotify has basically killed music piracy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's super
Which is
available
crazy to think about.
Yeah, right. It's like if you think about like before Spotify, it was like, okay, well, people would watch stuff on YouTube and rip it off of YouTube, or they would download MP3s from shady MP3 sites and put them on a thing, and or like some people would use like iTunes, but most people would point and laugh at people who would pay for music. Yeah. And it became like a service problem, right? Where it was like, if you make it easy enough for people to access these games or media or whatever, piracy drops, because piracy is basically being like, okay, how convenient is it for me to pay for this? And I think that's why part of the reason my Game Pass does so well is that it's like it makes it so convenient to play a lot of like really great releases. But of course, obviously, not everything is on that model, and I don't think it will ever be. And I think that there's always going to be a place for things being like full price purchases.
It would be very interesting to find out. Like I will never have that knowledge, but how Game Pass puts like a stop to piracy of games.
Yeah. I mean, console piracy is
like so many factors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Console piracy is kind of an interesting one. Or like PC piracy is rampant because it's such an open system, right? I think console piracy there's obviously still an aspect of it, but most people need to play offline. It's a much more controlled system, and so. Yeah.
You just remind me of something. Sorry to interrupt. There was something. There was an image that I saw the other day of like a BitTorrent download or something, and it was like a 50 megabyte file for a game.
Yeah.
And that was like typically a 20 gig game. It's just
exactly.
Oh, it's not working for me. I've done something
really.
wrong.
It's like I suddenly opened up the command window for a second, and then
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like the reason I sort of talk about piracy is because, like I said, piracy is a much smaller thing on the consoles, but your next closest thing is people buying like keys from Grey Site keys, and going to other regions to get better deals. Like it gets closer to that, where it's like they want to avoid paying full price for these games, so they use regional pricing. And I don't know. Obviously I get it, because Microsoft want to make sure that people aren't abusing the system, and obviously people are, because there are way more people buying games in Turkey than there ever have been.
Yeah. And there are legal stuff like to do with the regional pricing as well. Certain taxes that are only, I mean, the US has taxes in certain states and not in other states.
Yeah.
And then like so there's all kinds of stuff like that. And
Yeah, you should
that
feel bad for ripping off the government.
ah,
I feel bad for ripping off the government. They need their money. But yeah, exactly. Like I think I remember. I think also kind of back to Cameron's point around the early days of when you had to change regions to buy a game on like in Canada or the US because it just didn't come out of New Zealand, Australia region. You'd always make sure to change your region to a place that didn't have sales tax.
That's the other thing too. Like I will be honest. Like back in those early days, it's just like, well, I don't pay I don't think I should pay sales tax for
this country that I don't live in. Yeah, exactly right. It's like getting games that you didn't have access to, and it's gotten a lot better. And I think
I've already paid a conversion fee. That's it.
Sure, and I definitely think like games have gotten more accessible, and prices are still probably a little bit too high, especially in like New Zealand, Australia region for what they're actually be in the US. But we're getting there. And so I think
that's just because of the taxes in our countries. Though.
There is that. Like, there's always an aspect of that. Like, you got to break it down to really understand it. But
I think the thing I struggle with most of the time is just like, it is the availability aspect of it, which has gotten a lot better over time. But then there's the price disparity.
Yeah.
As well.
Games are fucking expensive.
Well, there's like one game that I've been eyeing off for. It's probably been like really relevant in indie mags and that for about 3 months now. Launched in Australia, $37, 4-hour game, like perfect game for Game Pass and that.
Sure.
But Argentina store was like $2.
Yeah, and it's like
just crazy.
That's insane, right?
There was I think it was Dead Cells. Was it Dead Cells? There was one indie that did like a really nice write-up on like why it was justified in terms of increasing prices. And essentially the rest of the market was ruining it for particular markets.
Yeah. I remember seeing there was a dev who released a game on Nintendo Switch who said that his game suddenly became the highest rated game on the eShop for a certain period of time, and he couldn't figure out why. And when you looked at his sales, they were all coming from Turkey. And it turns out that they don't regionally split their ratings, or the sales list or the popular list. So a bunch of people, like a huge amount of people, were buying this game cheap in Turkey, but that actually made it more popular in the rankings because it was one of the best-selling games on the eShop.
Which would be interesting because then you get the extra visibility from that for the other markets.
Right. So he did this whole write-up about how it was like a real interesting kind of like, man, it's shit that people are like basically stealing my game, but also really good marketing, and I'm still getting.
Was that How to Build a Zoo?
I think it might. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, I saw a write-up about it, and I was really fascinating because it was. I saw the turkey thing. I was like, oh, I know a lot of people like do that. Like that's a common thing.
There's two major things that I know that publisher from. It's that. And it's also the article about content creators when it came to that Stardew Valley lookalike.
Oh, yeah.
The one that he basically, essentially under the table said, like, doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, we shouldn't have to pay for it.
Shouldn't have paid for it. Yeah, right. Yeah. Which is, okay. So I guess kind of back to the question itself, though, like, what do we think about it? I guess just like we've kind of talked around the history and kind of like why it's happened and
multiple different things. Sustainability for developers. People should stick to their own markets. Games should all come to Game Pass. I just want sustainability for the market.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sustainability and people being responsible for gaming. Like you imagine people not having access to these games because games become more expensive in another region. And they can't afford it then. So
there's an Aussie dev that does marketing that she put a Twitter thread up the other day. It's really interesting to think about. People are so happy to go out and spend $50 on fast food and all that, but when it comes to a purchase decision about an indie game for about $20, people hesitate.
Yeah. This was I remember when. God, this is gonna fucking date me a bit. This is back when the PS3 first came out, and PS3 and Xbox 360, and this was like the beginning of downloadable content. I think basically the very first downloadable, like, again, small game, because these were like arcade games. On the PlayStation 3 was a game called Calling All Cars. Made by, I believe it was made by David Jaffe, who was the guy who made God of War.
Twisted Metal.
Twisted Metal and God of War. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he made this Calling All Cars game, which is kind of like a pinball kind of weird thing. And he was like, they theorized that they released these games for like $10, and they were like, people are just going to buy these like as impulse purchases because they're so cheap. Yeah. And it just didn't happen. Like people were like, they thought it was going to be impulse purchases, but it turned out to be more like DVD sales, where it was like people would only pick the stuff they thought was really good, and they weren't just gonna they weren't happy to just like pay money to try stuff to like bad experiences or just mediocre experiences. And the game didn't do very well, and that was the beginning of like downloadable content, arcade small games. And I think that like the indie space is the same way right now. So we saw a lot of stuff come out of Gamescom around like games being survivable in this market, and like things like this being like, like you can't have this regional stuff if you want to be able to sell enough games to make enough money.
There's a really good discussion. We're moving on to the like game pricing discussion also.
Sure.
The one game that's going to move the needle is going to be GTA 6.
Yeah.
Like that's honestly how I see the future happening. Like GTA 6 comes out, it's a little bit like higher than what people expect, and that becomes the new standard.
Yeah, I mean that's a good excuse for them to do it. The rumor was that apparently like the new PlayStation, they're going to try and launch the PlayStation Pro to be out there in time for GTA, so it's like the best way to play or whatever. Yeah, I think, like you said, we're kind of changing into like a pricing discussion here, but I think it's kind of the underlying thing with this discussion is like the price of video games at the moment. Like we talk about availability and we talk about all that, but like realistically, it's like games are too expensive, and the games are expensive, filled with microtransactions, and people
Like swapping system for a second. That's why discounting is such a big thing on Steam. For the
that's
PC
exactly right. It's like that's where it like becomes the service, like piracy is a service problem, where it's like if you make your games really easy to be accessible in terms of like you buy them once, you can play them on whatever device you want, and you have regular discounting across your range, like good discounting, you like that's a moneymaker. People will just be like, that's where you get into the impulse territory, because it's like a game that was $40 comes down to like $15. Someone's like, oh, that's a limited time deal, and I have it forever, and I might not even play it because I mean we have backlogs. You think about like Steam backlogs are insane.
That's the thing too. Like I wonder how much impulse marketing, like impulse purchases, still exist.
Well, I mean, you're looking at that point. Sorry,
but like was like us three are so far removed from that conversation because of the backlogs, because of the subscription.
Yeah,
like we have access to these products. We don't need a justification to go unless we're really interested.
Yeah,
or if there's a nostalgic factor, or there's just
I mean, there's some of that coming up in one of our new news stories. But yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, and then back to Matt's point though, you're getting into service games. Then you've got a platform that you're basically getting cash from.
Yeah.
Like GTA at this point, like a big retail game that will have services in it, and then the Fortnite stuff that have games in it. So you're not pirating those things because you need the other platform to run them.
You're in an ecosystem within an ecosystem.
Exactly.
You can't pirate. Like that again. That's again part of the reason with the popularity of live services is that they basically can't be pirated. Their idea is that they just keep generating money, and you don't have to put nearly as much effort into as like doing a full release and building a new game every time. But we've also seen people being like, but I only have enough time for maybe one or two of these, and most of them are shit.
I'll quickly insert this time like this story. Star Wars Outlaws this week.
Oh yes,
PlayStation controversy. So people are paying $100 for like early access to the game. There was an old build uploaded. Replaced out. People say scope corrupted, and then they offered it was like 100 bits in vanity or something.
Yeah, they were basically like you had to restart your save and basically delete your save on the new version because they weren't compatible, which is crazy. If you paid for early access and then you lose all of that progress.
Yeah. Well, what was it a month or two ago that there was something that wasn't working for early access? I don't know what it was.
Oh yeah,
was it like a fighting game or something?
I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I know what you were talking about.
I can't think of it.
Was it Diablo?
Well, I was thinking it could have been. But I mean,
Diablo
like,
last year, I think definitely had some issues
it's-
at the early
yeah.
access launch because the fucking servers were borked.
It's crazy as an industry that we have early access as a tagline for games launching 4 days early into like a gold subscription
Yeah.
for a ridiculous price, and a game that is in unfinished state, like, and not content complete.
I mean, realistically, most games that release these days aren't in a finished content complete state anyway. So maybe they're closer than we think.
As to what is promised, though, like different
Sure, yeah,
perception.
no, you're
but
right. You're right. I'm being facetious. But
yeah. So those day one patches that you go early access, you're not getting them.
there's
We're
really
just going to put marketing conversations in every topic tonight. It's
yeah,
gonna be
exactly.
great.
There's just not really a great reason to pre-order or buy early, and there never really has
No,
been.
there really isn't, especially with Ubisoft.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I mean, we haven't included it tonight, but there's already conversations about X Defiant really struggling for player numbers.
Really, yeah, I can't say I'm super surprised, to be honest, but yeah.
Maybe it was X Defiant actually that was having that trouble.
Oh, yeah, actually, maybe.
I mean, X Defiant, they kind of...
Yeah.
I don't want to say it was early access. It was a fine product at launch. It was just like fine-tuning stuff.
Something. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Look, Call of Duty does the exact same thing with multiplayer.
Yeah, it's true.
They balance weapons and that.
This is about a beta going on now. I think it's open now.
Yes, I think it just started. Yeah,
Yeah.
or is just starting this weekend. All right. Well, hopefully that answers your question there, Isaac. Let's move on to the news. First news story here I just chucked in is again. I feel like I'm in fucking Groundhog Day. Square Enix to bring more games to Xbox, says Final Fantasy 14 producer. Where the fuck have I heard this before? Oh wait, on this show several times.
Every year, always before TGS.
Yeah, exactly. So basically,
This reminds me of like you calling yourself out last week for saying there's no games coming out.
yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like it's
You know
just,
what? Clearly, Final Fantasy 7 remake and Final Fantasy 16 are coming out.
I mean, look, if they did come out, if those show up on the release list, I will 100% eat my hat because
that is an impulse buy. That is
yes, exactly.
100%.
But there you go. Put them in Game Pass though. But
Like other potential impulse buys this week.
yes, exactly. But yeah, as we've heard many times, yes.
I will say it is a monkey's paw though. If we get Final Fantasy 7 remake, it will never come to Game Pass.
That is very true. Yeah, that's almost. But I will support that.
I'm still adamant that we'll get part 2 and not part 1.
That would be really fucked. That would be really fucked up.
We'll get the. I think we'll just get the trilogy after they're all released.
But it's not. The
Then
next
they're
one's going to
back.
come out for like another 10 years.
But then nobody.
It will be the best game ever, apparently, according to the developers.
But by then,
developers.
let's let Matt read the story.
yeah,
Yes,
by
let's go.
in 10 years there won't be Xbox anymore. So, but yes, apparently there's been more talk around the fact that Final Fantasy 14 obviously is now on Xbox, and they were talking to, I believe it was Yoshida, who was the head
Yeah,
guy.
Naoki Yoshida.
Yes, thank you. Basically said that I think it would take more communication and work on establishing the community going forward, and this is important not just for Final Fantasy 14, but Square Enix in general. We also saw a few weeks back there was a story around how Square Enix are looking to expand out from multi-platform because they're basically not making enough money from the PlayStation exclusivity of things like Final Fantasy 7 Remake and from Final Fantasy 16. But we still haven't seen those games on Xbox yet. We haven't seen the Pixel remasters. We didn't see the Live Alive or whatever Live Live or whatever it was called.
Live.
Live.
Octopath
I'm not
Traveler 2 came.
Octopath Traveler 2 did come, which was a bit of a surprise, a great one. But yeah, they said they were aggressively changing their policy about multi-platform releases, and maybe it's just that we haven't seen those yet. But that was early this year. I would expect to see. I mean, I was expecting to see at least an announcement of Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox now that it's going to be on PC. But
Yeah.
basically it's just, hey, with Final Fantasy 14 as the starting point, we do want to release more Square Enix games on Xbox, and there will be more of our titles released on Xbox. So I hope players will look forward to the future things to come on the platform, which is again a nothing statement, nothing promised or anything. But
I don't see Kingdom Hearts 4 here at all.
I don't see Kingdom Hearts 4 in our lifetime, so I'm probably not too worried about it, to be honest, considering how long 3 took. But
I remember the wait for 3. I remember the wait for Final Fantasy 15. I remember when Final Fantasy 15 was called Final Fantasy 13 Versus.
yep,
Was it?
yep.
But the developer
I was
that
in
did
year 8.
Kingdom Hearts was working on 15, I believe.
Yes.
Was it Tanaka?
No,
I can't remember.
Nomura.
No.
Yeah.
Nomura? Yeah.
Mm,
Or am I thinking of Max?
yeah,
say that's
that
right.
actually
It's been a
makes
while.
sense.
Yeah.
I think Tanaka's a different.
Yeah.
So let's just wait until next year where we hear the same thing again.
Yeah.
And
I
Yeah.
guess so.
I think we're probably going to get the Pixel remasters finally,
Yeah.
if nothing else. Maybe we'll get Theater Rhythm. No, probably
you know
not.
what? I bet I don't know, it could go anyway, but I would more so lean on the fact that this probably means timed exclusivity.
Yeah.
I think they would go back to PlayStation. They would be like,
They've always had that
they'll
relationship.
still want to keep the
yeah.
money, but we would get exclusivity like 6 to 12 months after.
Yeah, no, I don't know about
might
the
get physical,
exclusivity thing
I
now.
betcha.
I'm not convinced about exclusivity right now. So
What
not
time?
with the Square Enix stuff now. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of exclusivity, there was talk about Wukong once again has sort of come up again. That Black Myth Wukong is apparently might have some sort of secret exclusivity deal with Sony, and that's why it's not on Xbox. And Xbox hinted about that when it was kind of first asked, but there was also some competing rumors about it being a memory leak issue and it not being optimized.
Yeah.
So
so the biggest problem I have with Xbox at the moment, just on the tangent, is just we went through the same thing in Baldur's Gate last year.
Yes.
If it's not, do you feel like Microsoft came out clear enough and said like, no, this is exclusive, back in the prior messaging months ago? Because I don't think they did.
So the original messaging, they didn't say it was exclusive, but I talked about it a little bit in our staff chat here. Hang on, I'll pull the quote.
It essentially led to speculation that it was.
Yeah. So basically, this was back when Black Myth Wukong was, I think it was like the third trailer or whatever. It was shown up. This was earlier this year, and Xbox wasn't on the list anymore. Like they had it was when they showed the release date, and they were like, it's coming out in August.
Yeah.
And the Xbox release date wasn't on there anymore. And they got asked about it. It's like, oh, is it not coming to Xbox anymore? And they asked Xbox about it, and they basically said, we can't comment on the deals made by our partners or other platform holders, but we remain focused to making Xbox the best platform for gamers, and great games are at the center of that.
Why can't they? Why can't they comment on it?
That's the thing, is that that's why everyone was like, it is the classic thing where it's like, none of us talked about exclusivity deals or deals at all. So why are you bringing that up? And it's like, unless there is a deal there that they can't talk about for whatever reason, or don't want to talk about, or don't want to get into the fist fight about.
I kind of wish. I feel like Microsoft's playing it too safe for the moment because they want to launch they want to launch those titles on PlayStation and make the money back and all that.
Sure.
But there needs to be some. I don't want to say fairness and all this, but there needs to be some.
Like visibility.
Yeah, the messaging's all wrong at the moment. Like a typical consumer would be so confused.
And like this is why rumors come up around this whole like memory leak issue, and because like you said with Baldur's Gate last year, they were like, oh yeah, it's because the Series S basically can't run it and co-op, like it's just not powerful enough.
But they can't keep on getting back to conversations like this where it is essentially like, oh yeah, okay, so. Series X, Series S. Yeah. Series X is the most powerful way to play on a console.
Yeah.
Series S is dominating the conversation because of these rumors and all that. It's too difficult for devs and all that.
Which again, like we don't know, but is basically like people have drawn that conclusion from the discussion around Baldur's Gate and basically apply that to any time that there's an Xbox issue.
It really frustrates me as a consumer because it's just like Xbox Series X, Series S is great. That's my indie machine.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll go to my parents. I'll take that for the weekend. It's easy to plug in. It's like those cute little Space Invaders things and all that used to plug into the CRT TVs back in the day, right?
All right, Grandpa, calm down.
But yeah, it's just really frustrating that we keep on getting back to this conversation of Baldur's Gate 3, game of the year. Held back on Xbox because of these issues.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying that Wukong is it Wukong?
Yeah, Black Myth Wukong.
Yeah, Wukong. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was saying it right.
Yeah, you're good.
Could potentially be a game of the year contender. I'm not like there's been some really good games this year, so I won't say, you know, might still be surprised by the stuff.
I mean, it's been hugely successful in terms of like.
We don't want these repeats though. We don't want a case of like, all right, the conversation is like, sure, we have the most powerful hardware, but we can't get the games running. So why bother?
What they need to do is they need to open it up, change that term in their contracts, basically have you can develop for both the X and S or just the X. But then if they want to onboard people to Game Pass, they go, you can play it on S through cloud through those consoles, just like you can play on the Xbox One through cloud. So if you want to play these other games that are only on X, play through cloud on S and Xbox One.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like physical releases. It's like you could make physical releases just X anyway because the S doesn't have a disk drive, right?
Well, the S can just do cloud streaming.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we getting the S's to do cloud streaming off the X Blades?
The reason is because cloud streaming is just not. Yeah, it's not at a stage where it's again, because they would be doing that, but it's just not at the stage where it's a product that they can sell on its own. There's not enough infrastructure in place. And like, you know, like even a couple of years ago, I was complaining about how New Zealand didn't have a data center. We have one now. Streaming is a lot better. But like, if you think about the big markets where they really want to be pushing these things, especially for the cheaper consoles with the lower income places, they don't have the infrastructure for cloud streaming.
It's so weird to me because we've got like, we've got games still coming out for Xbox One. Mm-hmm. Even I will say most of them are probably third party like now, but like
third parties and indies,
It's still it doesn't make any sense to me.
It is a weird spot to be in, and I think that like again we're speculating that it's a technical issue there, where it's like there's kind of like some people saying it's technical, some people saying exclusivity deal.
I probably lean more so on the side of exclusivity now, but like the fact that this has came up in the conversation again, it's making consumers believe that Xbox isn't the, you know, it's taking it's taking attention away from Xbox, which is leading us to put games on rivals. Yeah. The biggest problem I have with all this is essentially like at the end of the day, we're losing out. There should be some trade-off.
Yeah. And I think it's again, we're getting back to marketing again, is that like it's that very much like perception is reality thing, and Microsoft need to be combating this, you know? Like for them to allow this discussion to basically happen around like a question mark of like, oh, is there an exclusivity deal, or is your console business really bad and everyone's holding it back? And then to have that surrounded by all the stuff of being like, oh, they're going third party, they're doing this, they're not going, and Microsoft are they're
putting messaging out of like they're bloody announcing Indiana Jones on PS5 out of fucking Xbox event.
Exactly. So it's like it really feels like Microsoft do not know how to do their messaging right now, and they're just so all over the place that. They just feel like they can't, like people just don't have a lot of confidence in the Xbox ecosystem. And so when someone says, oh yeah, it's like Baldur's Gate, like they have a memory leak issue. And someone's like, oh, what's your source for that? And they're like, trust me, bro, look at all these other stories about other shit that's happening with Xbox. And they're like, oh yeah, well actually that makes sense. Like that's not...
It makes sense because of everything else clouding.
Exactly, but it might not actually be true in this case, but it doesn't actually matter what the reality is. The perception is the thing that's killing them right now. And the perception is... Well, the perception is there's a memory issue and the Xbox is being held back by its hardware. The reality is Black Myth Wukong is just not on Xbox, and we don't know when it's coming, which is crazy because this is from what people are saying, Game of the Year contender for a lot of people, which is nuts. I feel like we're back in 2023 again with Baldur's Gate.
The funny thing is about the naming of the Xbox with the X and the S is the perfect acronym for excess, the word excess.
Excess.
Like,
I thought you were going to ask for a Xbox Series C.
No. They could totally just melt the S into the ether and then just say, oh, it was always XS. The branding is XS.
Amazing. You just got to like 1984 them and just basically just tell gaslight the entire industry and then believe in this Series S never existed.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so funny. But to be fair, if anyone was going to do it, Microsoft would be the company. Yeah, again,
I feel like Google's probably got
Google definitely. That's the two corporations the wars are going to be fought over.
Stevie just asked, if you go back and put all your gaming into PlayStation trophies instead of Xbox Achievos, would you do it? No, I wouldn't get an addiction to achievements at all. We all need therapy. Let's just admit it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like I would definitely, it would be the same. I think that. We're always. Oh, it's very funny. Yeah, I think it's just it's a bad look, and things just have not been going well for Xbox recently. And yeah, I think Cameron, like you said, like
Okay, so it's always the conversation though. It's like, all right, their messaging's wrong because, like, you know, they'll do like E3 or some kind of event around that time. The messagings are wrong. They go to the next thing. The messaging was wrong. They get really good at the messaging for that, but they still shoot themselves in the foot in a bloody different area, and it doesn't make any sense. Like I know, like, it's multiple decisions coming
and
from.
I was
like,
going to say, like,
there's
obviously stuff happening behind the scenes that we're just not privy to at all, right? We only get what we see. But if they're not controlling their messaging and actually letting us know and us having confidence in their brand, then like
this is the other thing too. I think you, if I'm remembering correctly, you brought up a point, like you and Shane talking last week about Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
There's just, like, you know, back in like 2015, we got backwards compatibility. We got like stuff like Rare Replay and that, like, just like, it was a great
they're like, hey,
time
we acquired a
for Xbox.
shitload of studios. We're doing, like, again, they were saying all the right things, making the right moves, and then obviously COVID hit and things got a bit weird and all that kind of shit. But it's like there are reasons.
Everything was set up for success, and now it's just like, well, we have all these options to do it, but we're not capitalizing on them.
And we don't know why they're not capitalizing on them, right? And I think, and we probably will never know in a lot of ways until, you know, until Jason Schreier does a big fucking expose on them in a year or two.
Yeah.
But
I did say when all of this conversation first came up, and I said they should really just own it and tell people what they're doing.
Yeah.
And now they're actually telling people what they're doing. And
I want a cut for an Xbox.
Yeah.
I want an absolute cut for an Xbox of, like, no, PlayStation paid for Final Fantasy VII Remake under the table, and they had a 10-year exclusivity deal, and we couldn't touch it.
Yeah.
Like,
we want to know what's going on, because we're like, oh, is this a timed exclusive? Is this never coming? Because obviously, you know, that's why the Indiana Jones thing is maybe weird, because it's kind of in the other direction, where normally it would be Xbox releases a game, like, again, in this scenario where it's like, normally what would happen is Indiana Jones comes out for Xbox. They don't talk about it coming to PlayStation for ages. And then suddenly, like 2 months before, like, they actually, it was all planned, they're like, oh, actually, also it's coming to PlayStation, and it's going to have extra DLC or whatever. It'll be like the complete edition.
Yeah. So, and when Indiana Jones was announced, there was also another game in there that was announced as well that had no labeling for platform on it. So it's Blade.
Oh yeah, of course. Which again,
that's the next one. And guess what? They're Disney as well.
Yeah,
which is crazy to me then, because, like, all right, if Disney's doing that, so we saw the leaked documents with Insomniac and, like, how many sales numbers they had to meet.
Yeah.
Is it just a case of Xbox isn't confident that they can hit those sales numbers without being on another platform?
Not with their hardware numbers, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just like, I think maybe it is a situation of, like, you have your Disney IP, you have your licensed IP, you've got certain things you need to do, and Xbox is just they're
maybe there is a trade-off there that they have to do that to make sure they hit those numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe like they would only do it if it's a win-win, right? The trade-off will be also that they also make a shitload of money.
You want Kingdom Hearts 4 day one? You need to give PlayStation Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be a real shame if something happened to your entire Square Enix partnership, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, we're kind of again, a lot of this is kind of speculation, but it is a weird time for games not coming to Xbox, and just kind of getting, like, we definitely had a little bit of, like, things, indie games not coming to Xbox every now and then, and just being like, oh, you know, like they were like, oh, it's too hard to develop for, or we don't have a big enough audience, or we didn't get a Game Pass buyout or a Game Pass deal, so it's not really worth us.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, smaller studios and that, I can justify the indies.
Like, I hate it because I love indie games, but I get it.
I mean, usually my path of thinking for it is, like, just go out on Steam, you know, test your product. Do you have a viable product through Steam? Do you have the market that's going to support you? If not, it stays with Steam. That's fine.
Yeah.
If it is a success, that's when you explore your other platforms, and then just come out to everything. Like, the biggest thing I'm accepting of is Xbox not having physical media anymore.
Yeah.
because like I was really Cuisinier, Battle Bros from Singapore. I've like I know them. They announced this week that they're coming to consoles.
Right.
And I saw that they have an Xbox physical, and I was like,
oh shit, all right,
okay,
great.
very surprised. So as soon as it comes out, I'm going to support them and pick a copy up because I don't want to buy games on Steam.
Yeah, no, I get it. But yeah, now that we're seeing it with like more titles, and it's not just Square Enix, because the next story we'll talk about here is that Capcom did a show this week as well. Showed off a lot of great stuff.
This is a different reason though. This is
yes, it is, but the reality is the same though, right?
Oh yeah. So okay, go for the story and I'll.
So Capcom had an event earlier this week. Showed off a lot of really cool stuff. The new Monster Hunter looks amazing. But they also showed off they're going to do another Capcom Fighting Collection, which is also just not coming to Xbox, apparently. So it's a fighting collection. It's going to have, 8
has
games.
Has the first one hit Xbox yet?
No, I don't.
Sorry, has the first one released yet? Is what I'm.
I think it did.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't release on Xbox. I think was the whole controversy at the time, right?
Like I know that this is like the third game, right? Now from Capcom that hasn't released.
Hang on, no, sorry. I think no.
The Street Fighter one.
Or am I thinking?
No,
okay,
there was a different one. So the first fighting collection did come to Xbox.
Yeah, it is.
The second one isn't, but there was another fighting game that they announced a little while ago that isn't coming, and I think it was another. Yeah.
It was the Street Fighter collection that also included like some other Marvel.
That's
stuff.
right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It had the Marvel. It had like the
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom collection. So like that wasn't coming, and so this is the next fighting game from Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom, SNK vs. Capcom, Mega Man Network Collection. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. There is talk that apparently it is coming at some stage, and there's some technical reason why it's not, but we also just don't know. Like
Well, we had this discussion last time. It's the MT framework.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. But the fact that
Jez Corden's already said that Microsoft's working on it. So
he said they're working on it, but again, we got no dates. We have no idea.
I'm just hoping it is a case of like, all right, cool. We get an announcement. All of it's coming on pretty much the same. Like
that's what I think that's probably what would happen is they just release both of them at the same time when they're done.
Okay. So, like, going back to our previous conversation, this is a great marketing opportunity for Xbox to be like, all right, there was an issue, we couldn't get it working, all that. We've heard our consumer base loud and clear. They want these fighting games on Xbox. We're going to get them on an Xbox, and these are the dates, and we worked hard with make it a really nice
talk about it
story.
Because right now Microsoft haven't acknowledged anything.
Yeah.
Like the only talking we've had is from Jez Corden, who's obviously not a Microsoft guy. He's like a leaks and rumors guy.
Yeah, obviously got like sources and that. Though.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah,
but it's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, you should be talking about this stuff. Like the bad press is already out there about this not hitting Xbox. Like that was one of the big stories about this.
But then you turn it into good press.
Exactly. Yeah, it just feels like they're just kind of
marketers.
Exactly. Yeah, and like obviously,
every news story.
They're worried about the Streisand effect. Is that like talking about it will draw more bad attention to it? But if you show that you like, people are willing.
You show that you're working on it, it's fine.
Yeah, people are willing to come to the party when they know they can trust that you're doing what you say you're going to be doing.
So could you imagine them just saying we're working on it, but no promises?
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be very bad.
You get it working. You come out, you sell it as a good news story, and you move on.
Exactly. Yeah, you say, hey, we know there's an issue. We're working on it. This is what we're planning to do.
And you know what? You put one of them on Game Pass to seal the deal.
There you go. Right. You put Marvel vs. Capcom on there, and you try to get people to buy the other one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all mostly the same, right? I mean, like Mega Man Collection is completely different.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, like. Well, again,
they're fighting games. At the end of the day, they're all gonna.
They are fighting games, so they definitely have
a big. They all be really mad at me.
Careful, because fighting game people are very dangerous. They're kind of fucking crazy. But yes, I know what you mean. Though, like the kinds of people that it appeal to are the same demographic for both of these titles, for sure.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going with that. Thank you, Matt.
Don't worry. Like, I really should work in PR. But here's some great news. Castlevania. So Konami, apparently still doing video games, have basically shadow dropped the Dominus collection, which is a collection of the 3 DS Castlevania games. So let's see if I can remember these: Order of Ecclesia, Portrait of Ruin, and Dawn of Sorrow.
That sounds right.
Dawn of Sorrow was the direct sequel to Aria of Sorrow, which was on the Game Boy Advance. And then there's also like another. They've got another remake in there as well of an old
Haunted Castle Revisited. Is that just the Japanese naming, or
it was like the arcade game that they made. So they basically turned it into like an actual product. It's like quite short or whatever, but it's kind of cool that they did it.
How has one person done all of it already?
I mean, the games aren't super long, and if you like, they are literal just ports, and they also have like rewind modes and save states and stuff. So very like. So this is very much like along the lines of, like what they did for the Advanced Collection. This is like when the Advanced Collection came out, and I fucking talked about it on the show, and like I loved it, and I was super excited for it. This was like I was like, okay, I really hope they do the DS games. Yeah. We didn't hear anything about it, and suddenly they're just like, yep, it's done, and it's coming out today.
Yeah.
So I'm
pretty reasonable pricing to it.
Yeah,
like $12
also
to $13 a game.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm probably just going to pick this up, to be honest. Like, normally I would wait for a sale, but I'm such a huge fan.
Definitely want to support it as well.
Yeah,
I think $12 to $13 for like each game.
Yeah, Order of Ecclesia is fucking hard, but I really, but like Portrait of Ruin is one of my like again these are things that I grew up playing, so I'm so fucking excited to play through them again. Yeah, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm hoping that we see more of this stuff. In that similar vein, was revealed that that Croc Legend of the Gobbos is the PS1 game is being remastered, and so I think we're finally starting to see that generation of game coming back. There's
a funny story with Croc. It was a game that I rented over and over again and got to the last level with the same disc from the same rental store, and it was actually at that point that the game would stop working. On the final level, every single time I tried to play it, it was the same disc. Yeah, so I've never finished that game. So
I remember that. I think it was was it the one where you had to fight the ladybug and you had like a bunch of. It's been a long time since I played Croc. I love those games. But I think I might have played the second one, but I played a lot of them back in the day. So I'm super excited for this.
I only ever played Metal Gear Solid Disc 1 on PlayStation 1.
Same.
Sorry, and GTA.
You get to the Vulcan Raven right before the Vulcan Raven fight, and that's where the disc changeover happens. And I didn't have the second disc. Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, that was rough. But yeah, it's fun to see that it's like some of these games from our childhood are kind of getting more like easier ways to play them and being part of digital libraries again, and also like not being super expensive, like they're actually being reasonably priced.
A lot of the viral stuff I say at the moment is not so much PS1, but PS1-esque.
Sure.
Style
yeah,
stuff.
Sure. Like the
and
style.
I'm real like there was the Bloodborne. Was it Bloodborne? Bloodborne cart?
Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
So no longer Bloodborne cart because they took the branding off.
Yeah, because they took the name. Yeah,
but yes.
Well, there was a Bloodborne demaster as well.
Yes,
there's a few There's a
demake.
Quite a few games that have been demake.
But I love the devs that have just been creative with like the PS1. Like, it's very like it's nostalgic, but it's still new.
We saw it with that. Was it that Blumhouse thing that they're doing, the publishing thing, where they like a few of those games look like they're kind of in that.
I feel like there was one.
I think
there's like a really dark one that I've seen on Twitter a bit.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
I think I saw maybe one or two that were very like in that vein. And there's I'm all for it. Like I love that kind of weird pixelated thing. Char sent me a picture today of the new what was it? The new Harry Potter Quidditch game that just came out.
Yeah.
So apparently,
is that out or is that out this week?
I think it's out this week, or I think reviewers are playing it. But there's you've seen screenshots on Twitter. Apparently, you can get like customization outfits. One of the helmets is the PS1 Hagrid face.
Yeah,
it's so good. I thought it was I thought it was a joke. Like it's actually like you can put on the PS1 Hagrid.
Please tell me you're just gonna have a whole team.
You can have a whole team of PS1 Hagrid faces. It's so, like there's a real charm to those old games. I mean.
And being sold on such a gimmick.
It's so funny, right? But I think the key thing is that like if you can make a game that like you improve the controls and make it more playable, I'm actually fine with it looking kind of weird and pixelated and kind of that weird blocky polygonal stuff because there's a real charm to that style.
Visually, it's not a blocker. It's only a blocker when it comes to the controls.
Yeah. I don't want to play tank controls.
Yeah, like that was the same thing I was saying about Tomb Raider. I want to play the new graphics with the old skin, essentially. Yeah.
That's why I love like Halo MCC for having the ability to like swap between
Yeah.
both.
I mean, you have to remember, like, some of these games came up before the DualShock came out and that, like, thumbsticks became a thing, you know? Like, I remember the original Ape Escape is one of those games that I really would love to replay. And, like, that was the first game that required you to have a DualShock because you had to control with the left stick and attack with the right stick. And if you didn't have a DualShock, you couldn't play that game. And that was kind of the big selling point. And that's crazy to think about. It's like a games without, like, joysticks. Funny story about that, actually. I'll probably tell when we get to what we've been playing. But yeah, it's cool to see that, like, we're getting some of those older games coming back. I'm super keen on playing them again, which I know there's, like, nostalgia bait and member berries and all that sort of shit, but I'm also 32, so I'm getting to that age where I'm getting, you know, nostalgic about some of this stuff. Something that's a little bit sad, but also kind of in the nostalgia front is there was been some talk. We talked a couple of weeks ago around a new Spyro game and Toys for Bob and all this kind of stuff. There was some talk around Project Dragon and some other stuff that got cancelled. And there's apparently Crash Bandicoot 5 got cancelled, which is kind of sad. Crash Bandicoot 4 didn't perform nearly well enough for them to do another one. But apparently they had...
Well, but like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, right. Like, again,
realistic expectations.
Unfortunately, yeah. Like Crash Bandicoot is very much on nostalgia, and I don't think it quite has quite the same tie to it as like Spyro did.
Yeah,
I think Spyro is probably a stronger property in that way.
More accessible.
But apparently there was some other talk around. So Crash Bandicoot 5 was cancelled, and they basically turned that into Crash Team Rumble, which did really, really badly and was fucking terrible. But apparently there was also talk around how there was going to be a crossover game after Crash 5, where it was basically crossover between Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and you could basically do some like multi-dimensional hopping stuff and play as both characters with like 3D platformer stuff, which sounds like the coolest fucking thing in the entire world.
You know what? Microsoft has all the properties.
They have.
We could have like one of the best kid games ever made, and it could be like Banjo, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot.
Yep.
What else is there? What else can we check them next?
I mean, they have done crossovers in the past. I think there was the Game Boy Advance games. They had like Project Purple and Project Orange or whatever, and it was Crash in the Spyro world and Spyro in the Crash world. But obviously they're like side scrollers or whatever, so they're real basic. Yeah. But I think that, like, you know, those properties have been synonymous with, like, those were two of the biggest properties of the original PlayStation, and we were just talking about the sort of PS1 days. Having a crossover, like, I can't believe it didn't happen back then.
I'm pretty sure I just read something today that I think it's Spyro is in the Astro Bot.
Oh yeah. Crash Bandicoot's still in Astrobot, the new game, even though it's now owned by Xbox. Yeah,
I mean, that makes sense. Like, the Astrobot games are so much about celebrating the history of PlayStation, and
exactly.
Crash Bandicoot and Spyro were such huge parts of the PlayStation,
which is out this week as well, I think. So we'll know more about that.
Yeah, I've heard really good things. People seem to really, really enjoy it. But yeah, it's a real shame. I a couple weeks ago talked about how I was playing through the Insane Trilogy. Had a fucking fantastic time playing through it. Yeah, great game. Really fucking difficult, but yeah, it's a real shame. I'm not going to touch 4. Unfortunately, I just don't have the will to do that. Stubby says he still hasn't finished 4. Yeah, I can understand why. Like, looking at those achievements are kind of insane. But yeah, I also agree with Stubby. I would pick Spyro over Crash. The Spyro trilogy, I think, was far superior in a lot of ways in terms of like variety and secrets and puzzles. Again, it was like less. It was more open world, less level based, kind of more kind of fun stuff. Yeah, but that's I think that's about it there. And then our last story here. Cameron, do you want to go through this one?
Yeah, so I just chucked this in quickly today because it was in the news. Annapurna is co-financing Control 2 and will bring Remedy IP, including Alan Wake, to film and TV. I can't think of a better partnership.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think Annapurna will smash it out of the park with turning Control, and like they're just the kind of stories that would easily translate to TV or film.
Yeah, agreed. And it looks like they're also Remedy also confirmed that they're going to be self-publishing Control 2, so they won't be going through like Epic or anything, which is great. Which means it'll probably come out on Steam, because Alan Wake still isn't on Steam yet. Alan Wake 2, it's still only on the Epic Store on PC, which is crazy.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how they how their approaches the physical media and that as well.
Yes, agreed.
Because that was a lot of the controversy. Oh, what an Annapurna. There was something else that they were producing. Something.
I mean, they've been doing a lot of stuff. I mean, they kind of. You mean
Yeah,
like
I think
TV
Annapurna's
wise?
probably 45. Question is, if they do a TV show, is Sam Lake going to be in it?
Of course, yes. He'll probably fucking produce. He'll be one of the producers on it, obviously. So
Yeah, he'll be a producer in it, but like, will he actually be a...
yeah, they'll definitely. He'll probably make a cameo. The smart thing to do with an Alan Wake style show is to not do Alan Wake himself. Is to do like a Night Springs thing. I think maybe would probably make the most sense.
Have you played Night
Yeah.
Springs yet?
Not yet. No.
I need to get around to it. I keep on going like,
You have to have the complete edition to play it because I don't think they released the DLC separately yet.
are the DLCs free?
No, only if you have the complete edition, basically.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
if I remember correctly, I think it was like if you bought the like Ultimate Edition, you got the DLCs when they came out, but they weren't actually purchasable at launch. I don't know if they are yet, but they weren't when they first came out.
I'm curious. I'm looking this up.
Yeah. I watched over the weekend. I watched Long Legs.
Oh yes.
Okay, is it good? Because I'm hearing mixed things.
I really liked it, but I'm also kind of an elitist film snob, so it's weird, and I'm super about it. Like I was
Yeah.
I was locked in the entire time. Like I was riveted by it.
Yeah, totally. It's
Yeah,
You go first. Yeah.
I was like I really enjoyed it, but the first thing Alison said to me, she's like, "What the fuck did we just watch?" At the end of this.
Yeah. It's almost like it goes on the same trajectory the whole time, which is batshit insane. And then it feels like it doesn't have an ending, even though they clearly state Act 1, Act 2, Act 3
Yeah.
through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's just kind of like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
what is this?
The Allison says the movie was good, but the story was boring. I don't know. It's a like detective mystery with some supernatural elements, maybe sprinkled in there about a serial killer.
Like
Yeah.
atmospheric, but falls flat in terms of story.
Very
I-
atmospheric. Yeah.
I was definitely comparing it to Alan Wake, and then it was pointed out Twin Peaks as a
Yes.
inspiration.
Which again, like Alan Wake
Yeah.
is super pulls from Twin Peaks as
totally.
well. So it's like it very much has that. Like yeah, Twin Peaks is probably the best comparison. But there's a lot of like people made a lot of comparison shots in terms of like how the movie is shot, like the cinematography, the lighting, the kind of like story, and the kind of weird surrealist stuff that goes on. There's a lot of similarities to Saga's story, for example. But yeah, so I could definitely see Annapurna doing something in that similar style for the Alan Wake universe, the Alan Wake Control universe. Because I feel like adapting Alan Wake would be kind of weird. Maybe the first game would maybe work okay, but I feel like just like doing a like shot for shot adaptation of the game would be a little strange, maybe, especially because they have live action parts in the games themselves. I feel like it would be smarter to do like something set in the universe that's tangentially related.
Yeah. It's what I wanted them to do at Borderlands. Just make a story in that universe and tie it back into the game.
I mean, fucking, that's why Tales of the Borderlands is so good.
Yeah. There was something at some point where I'm like, yeah, they should do like the opposite, where they're making a show with real people and then do the things on the wall with the stuff from the games or something.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
actually like reversing it and kind of like everything's connected.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
like, you could so easily make a show that is essentially like you could even do like a Monster of the Week show based around the oldest house and like them going and investigating, like the Bureau of Control going and investigating weird shit. Like I'm just describing X-Files. I'm literally just describing X-Files right now. But
I want like something. Have you seen Late Night with the Devil?
no.
Okay, I want something
No.
like along those lines,
Okay.
like talk show, like.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That would be really interesting. Yeah. Like that universe is so rich with
Or
possibilities.
just take one of those characters out of the universe and just expand it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm super about it. So like, and the Annapurna stuff I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff they could do with Saga and her backstory and.
Yeah. And like fucking, you could do like the Asgard stuff, and there's stuff with Archie, and there's all kind of Finland stuff. There's so much you could do.
Do you think if they did something that they would concentrate on one IP, or they would just do the whole world?
I think like because they've really indicated that it's the connected world thing is that they say it's like, oh, it's an Alan Wake adaptation, but that's because that's the most popular. That's the big one, right?
Franchise
so
that, yeah.
You do the Control universe or the Alan Wake universe or whatever you want to call it, the Remedyverse. You make a Remedyverse show, and you probably have quite a few references to the other stuff to make sure that it ties in. But just make like
tie in Quantum Break, you tie in Control, you tie
exactly
in,
like there's a lot they could do there. All right, Game Pass updates. Cameron, you want to read through those?
Yep. So August 27th, we got a surprise announcement for Core Keeper. I mean, we knew it was coming out in August, but we didn't know exactly when. I think that tied in with the Nintendo Direct.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. September 3rd, we start Star which I'm just looking forward to. Not as much as September 4th. We finally get ready for the 12th. I'm holding out so hard, not my early access at the moment because I've had so much going on. But man, I want to play this game.
Looks good. It looks really good. They just released the achievement list, and it looks pretty reasonable.
Yeah. I'm so glad that there's no play 1,000 matches.
Yeah.
Yes.
They think they learned the lesson, yeah.
Leaving Game Pass, we have Atomic Heart, NBA 2K24 on Xbox One and Series, and Guilty Gear Strive.
Yep.
Guilty Gear.
Guilty Gear, indeed. Yeah, unfortunately, those will be out by the time you hear this. So I guess we'll see what next week's list looks like. I'm getting a little concerned because I did that big push at the end of sort of last year, early this year of like, I'm going to get a bunch of Game Pass games done. And then I kind of slacked on it, and now I'm kind of getting towards it. It's like, oh man, like I'm getting up to, what is it? Persona 5 Tactica was in November, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to have to really start that soon, aren't I? I'm getting a bit worried about.
What was added last year? Let's have
let's have a look. What's the potential?
So if we go on like a yearly thing, where is it? September 2023 editions, we had Gree, we had Starfield, we had Solar Ash,
okay,
Liza P, Party Animals, Payday 3, and Cocoon. I reckon Solar Ash would probably be a good one for you to look at.
Yeah, Solar Ash I might do actually. Yeah, that could be good because I've done all.
You have done Gree?
I've done Gree and I've done Cocoon.
Yeah.
Gree was.
I
good.
don't think you'd do Party Animals.
No, Party Animals looks like a bit of.
And Liza P and Starfield.
Liza P was fucking great, but yeah. Actually, if you're going to do any of those, and if anyone's listening, Liza P is one you want to start now because that's going to be
definitely.
Yeah, Kia obviously a huge fan of that. Did a great job. All right. Well, we've also got our monthly theme. It's just about to end. So almost there was our theme for this for the last 2 months, where we're looking at games that you were 80% of the way through. Finally making some good progress. I've been cleaning up some stuff. We've all been working on things. Been good to see. Moonzom is nearly done with Rare Replay Collection, which is a Herculean undertaking. That's crazy. But we announced that we're going to have our new theme starting next month, which is And Stay Down, which is finishing games or going back to games that have DLC that you haven't started or haven't finished, or the classic thing that we all complain about where we have a game done and we think we're done, but they just keep pulling us back in.
Oh, Human Fall Flat gets a new DLC
update with a whole bunch of zero-G achievements.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Human Fall Flat is a fantastic example, which just happened this week here, so I'm probably going to be doing that. Vampire Survivors is always a common offender in this one.
That new title update is just way too complicated for its own good.
Which one?
The new one they added to Vampire Survivors. It did not do...
I did it this week.
It requires thinking. I don't want my
Vampire
Survivors.
Yeah, but imagine Vampire Survivors. Like, I died a few times. I had to restart a few levels. Like, I didn't just sit there and just smash it.
Yeah, there was one that was like really frustrating me, and I was like, this should not be this.
I actually quite enjoyed it. It was actually like back to basics, and I was like, actually, it's why people kind of enjoyed this game. But yep, so let's start thinking about DLC. I've got a lot of DLCs. One that I'm thinking about doing is Kingdom Hearts 3, funnily enough, that we were talking about it.
The Remind one?
The Remind DLC. I own it, and I bought Kingdom Hearts 3 when it was last on sale, now that it's not in Game Pass
really good
anymore.
fights in that one.
So I'm like, actually, you know what? That would be, like, that requires like a whole playthrough of the game, 2 playthroughs of the game. So I'm going to try and make some progress on it. So I might only get one game done, but it would be a really, really good one to tick off the list. Yeah. It also has like one of the hardest boss fights in history in it, so I've got that to look forward to. Jump on the channel. It's on our Discord. It's called Themed Event or Monthly Theme. So go and check on that, and you can post some of your progress and give us your list of what games you're thinking about working on, what DLC you've kind of been leaving hanging there. I've got a lot. Cameron's got a lot, I know. Keo, you've probably got a few as well.
Wow.
I have a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of DLC and I haven't finished any of it. So
Great. Yeah, so we're going to
That
chunk
comment,
as
I'm
well.
starting 10 new
Sorry.
games and just popping one achievement.
Yes, exactly. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I have done that today, but I've counted it by nearly completing a game. So
Yeah, there you go. And Keo,
Painful,
we've
painful.
just with some discussions with the rest of us. Keo has decided that we're going to be renaming the event a little bit, and that we're going to be running it for every 2 months as opposed to every month, because these tend to be kind of longer challenges, and we want people to get involved and kind of get really invested. So Keo, what was the new name that you came up with?
oh right. So now you put me on the spot, and I don't even have it written down. Oh my God. So it was Hogs by Muriel. No, what was the word? We can't even say the word ourselves, right? So, all right, let me just find it.
Like I
find
said,
it.
Americans
it
don't
was
know
the
the meaning of the name.
by
Fortnite.
minister.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes, Hogs by Menstrual Burden.
Yeah. So
By menstrual burden.
menstrual burden.
But
So yep, if you want to go on and try and guess how that's spelled,
Yep.
put your best guesses in the Discord. We'll update the channel a little bit.
Yeah, and we were thinking bi-monthly, and we're like, we can't do that. That's just too vague.
Yeah.
Is it 2 times a month, or is it every 2 months? And I literally just Googled that shit, and it went, oh, every 2 month is bimestral, and I'm like, that fits.
Sure.
I'm still gutted you didn't go with my Hall of Gamers every roughly 60 days or so competition that has a new theme and we all participate.
Yeah, well, you didn't give us the acronym for
Yeah,
that,
no, that's
so,
good. You really got to backronym that one.
Yeah.
I've already got the shirts made up with the acronym.
Okay, well, that's something at least. Well, when we start sending them out to Patreons, then we can change the name again, because we're nothing if not inconsistent. All right, well,
Yeah, I mean, who would release 7 episodes of a TV series and then
moving on to
leave
what we've
people
been playing.
MMOs?
Keo, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so well, basically I will start with the things that I am completing at this time. So
Not even your
earlier-
own completions.
What? Oh yeah, and this week
Yeah,
not even my
I
own
was going to say you added that one in for me, didn't you?
Yeah, for both of us basically, because yeah, it was on the back of both of us. So I did the last couple of days Hot Wheels Unleashed 2. I finished that off, and I've been working today on Hot Wheels Unleashed 1. So I went back to the last couple of days to work on that as well. So starting with those, the second game is the quality of life is so much better than the first game. And the first game, I mean, both of the games just repeat all of the content. It's basically all the same stuff, all the same bosses, all that. Everything's basically the same, but you can jump in the second game, and just the little things like that just make it so much better. The first game, with the bullshit like shortcuts that you have to take, out of all of the shortcuts to finish off the last couple of levels, there's only one that actually makes sense, and it's actually in front of you. You go through like a whole bunch of vents, and you come out the other side back onto the track, and it's actually right there. Everything else is like, go off the track, do a U-turn, go over here, do a U-turn, get on this part of the track because there wasn't a checkpoint between this point and this point.
Right.
So it's just like, and that's just stuff people have come up with because the time trials in that first game was so bad. So it's not even.
I'm wondering how much the first game was actually dev creativity though, compared to, like it was just incidental. Like,
Yeah.
because two has so many situations where I don't think there is really any shortcuts and that you can really do in the second one.
No, there's not at all. Like it's well crafted. The map is bigger, so I feel like it's taking just as long to get through the races because of the shortcuts that I've had to learn in the second one. But I got through most of the stuff. All the time trials are done. I'm just down to the couple of races now in that first game, and then the grindy loot box one, getting the gears, the cogs.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah.
Would you recommend the second game?
I would 100% recommend the second game, to the point where the DLC came out, and I did all of the races on all the maps in the DLC.
Wow.
Even though, like, the whole thing is copy and paste across a lot of it.
Yeah.
The second one actually has maps where there is no track, and you just go through checkpoints on the maps themselves, like the rooms that the tracks are built on.
Oh, that's cool.
But I just find like with the Forza Horizon stuff, with this stuff, I just find that the Hot Wheels stuff is always so bland. So
Yeah.
I'm just that they're
Yeah.
kind of meh games, I think.
I mean, for
but
Forza Horizon 3, I feel like the Hot Wheels was really good, but is it
nah.
5? The one was like
The one with
just
5 was
no.
pretty
So-
bad, yeah.
The thing that they really need to do in the Forza games is that Microsoft have so much stuff behind them that they could have done a Hot Wheels thing on a amusement park of IPs from Microsoft.
Oh,
So
yeah.
why didn't they have a Halo area on the map? Instead,
Just
they
do
do
a
a
ring,
shitty
yeah.
a shitty volcano thing in the sky with just tracks and clouds and stuff. And I'm just like, why didn't you do a whole island with all of these things that you have? So, but yeah, that's something I've really wanted from Forza Horizon, like a playground of Xbox IP in a DLC map. But I mean, and instead they just keep redoing Hot Wheels, and I'm like, bah, Hot Wheels is boring.
We'll get Lego in Forza Horizon 6.
Yeah,
Shoot, wait.
they'll just go back and forth. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly right.
Just
So
Blizzard
Mega
now
Blocks.
makes
They need to do Mega Blocks and like do like Halo stuff or whatever. No one likes Mega Blocks,
No,
but
they
you
don't.
know. So, do one of you guys
Yeah,
want to go?
I'll
I've played a couple of games that you guys have played, so I'll just tag in when I
yeah, so
played them.
I can go my list. I'll do a couple of my list, but I've
Mm-hmm.
been playing. I started Atlas Fallen, which just recently got added to Game Pass, and has been one of those ones. Apparently, it's doing relatively well now. People have been trying to jumping back on it. Apparently, they've redone a lot of the game. They've kind of like gone with this latest like title update that they did. They kind of also just went back and like redid a bunch of the voice lines with Ben Starr, the guy from Final Fantasy 16, and like they've changed like some of the camera stuff and some of the like the game apparently is quite different. So I'm not sure how different
Right.
that is from because I again didn't play it before it came to Game Pass, but that's kind of been my like new game to kind of dip my toe in and kind of keep myself busy.
enjoyable or
Yeah, it's again. I'm very early. I'm like maybe an hour in or
Okay.
so. So I'm like just kind of got like the first achievement, and kind of that was pretty much it. I mean, it's definitely kind of a little bit budget, like the voice acting, or like the kind of like the mouth movement while voice is happening stuff, or I don't know. It's kind of like you can tell it's like a AA game for sure. But it's like a 25-hour game, so I'm kind of looking forward to playing it and just kind of. It seems pretty mindless. The story seems kind of trash, to be honest, but it's still very early. But it just hasn't really inspired a lot of me yet.
I heard it was co-op, so that's kind of why I'm like a little.
Oh,
bit
okay.
interested.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that could be
Yeah.
interesting. And then something I've been working on is Disney Pixar Rush, which is fucking awful. I talked about it a little while ago. I've gone back
I
to it.
saw this the other day, and I'm just like, why are you subjecting yourself to
Fuck me,
torture?
it's so terrible.
Yeah,
So,
I've tried to play this.
yeah, so I'm nearly done with it. I'm going through. I'm on like the 5th of the 6 areas, but the achievements have all kinds of problems. Where if you earn an achievement in a level, and then you basically meet the criteria for and later in that level, or you meet the criteria for 2 achievements, you'll only ever get one of them, and you need to replay the level to redo the second one. Like there's all kinds of weird stuff happening behind the scenes, so you end up having to replay levels a lot. There's only like 3 levels per area, and they're only about 5 minutes each, so it is like a lot of just replaying bullshit. I just play the game on mute. It's something to play on my PC because my PC can run it well enough while Alston's using the TV or whatever. So it's just kind of a mindless, like, just Game Pass game. Not much to say there. Yeah, I've got a couple other games, but I'll come back to those. Cameron, what have you got?
I was gonna say, I'll quickly mention Evil West. So me and Stevie have been going for this on the co-op. The co-op is really good. So I've just been hosting the matches, and the only problem I think with it is it loading in all your friends list. So I think I've got like 250 to 300
Right.
friends.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, trying to load in that list will take like a few minutes, and then inviting Stubby into the game because it's internal. But yeah, like we've really been enjoying it. We've been just smashing through it on the hardest difficulty at the start. I think Stubby has the option because when your co-op partner plays with you, it creates a separate save for them, separate to their single player
Oh, okay,
profile.
right.
So Stubby has the option as he Shadows Ball and Chain. God's sake. Stubi has the option to essentially pick his skills from start every single time, or just continue on from the last time.
Right.
Yeah, the combat's been. I mean, like a lot of the bosses feel like very bullet spongy.
Yeah.
On that difficulty.
A lot of the enemies in general actually kind of feel like they just take way too many shots on the highest difficulty. Like I enjoy the game a lot when I play through on just like regular. I was like, oh, this is really fucking cool, and just like doing cool combos and shit. But going back on hard, I was like, oh man.
It's a nice level of co-op difficulty though, because like obviously we've gone through Lords of the Fallen recently, and there's parts of that have been pretty difficult. When like before Baron gave us such great assistance.
Sure.
But yeah, Evil West just going through like a solid AA experience with just guns and finding it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like probably a solid 7, 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
kind
I
of.
think so too. I had a good time with it. I didn't play it co-op. I completely forgot about co-op, but yeah, definitely feel like that would add to the experience.
Well, I was wondering like, so when we finish the hardest difficulty one, whether we get your save, you invite, and whether that pops the collectibles achievement.
It should do, yeah. I did I popped some of the collectible achievements for Baron actually, with Evil West.
So that might save us some time.
He jumped into our game and I got a bunch of them done. So yeah, I did 2 playthroughs, so I needed to, because you have to do 2 playthroughs to get enough gold to buy everything. But I did 1 playthrough on easy and 1 playthrough on evil. So
did you have chapter select back when?
Yes, but it's very weird.
Yeah, I feel like chapter select hasn't been there since the very start.
No, I think the chapter select stuff with co-op is kind of fucked up. I think it's a little bit. I think it works fine for single player because you can just kind of go into a menu. But if you try to do it for co-op, it breaks it. Or at least it did for me. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when Nikita first got it for Christmas or something, there wasn't a chapter select, but
there might not have been. Yeah,
I feel like it was a final update. So I've been working in Evil West the week prior because Subi's been away this week and just left me all alone to myself. So I've decided, without Stubi's guidance, to join the mob.
Oh, okay. Yep, as you do. Yep. Mongrel mob.
So Mafia released onto Game Pass and brought with it the Windows stack.
Yep.
So I thought, I'm really going to rile off the community. I'm just going to start this rather than finishing the other one.
Oh my god.
God, I love Mafia.
It's great.
It is one of my favorite games of all time.
Which convinced me to download it because I have not played any of the Mafia games, and I have just started it today. It's the game I started today, and it looks great.
Are you playing it on classic from the beginning? You just kind of
Yes, I'm just going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Cool. So quick tips out of I've talked about Mafia before, but just quick tips. The race was so much easier this time. It took me like 10 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
There needs to be some mention in the game of holding A, using that RAM button to
you have to do that to get around corners and stuff. Yeah.
Because as soon as you've got that pattern down, it's incredibly easy.
I got it done in about an hour from using that. Yeah.
So yeah, I obviously done it on console first, but then doing it on PC, 10 to 15 minutes, quite easy. Other than that, just amazing story, collectibles, super easy to clean up. There's is it IGN that has Map Genie?
Yes, yeah, they have a map.
Just going through that, pretty
Can you
easy.
do it post game?
Yes, you can.
So yeah, what I did was get as many collectibles during the story as I could.
Okay.
And use PowerPixel's guide for the story on what chapters had which collectibles. And then I used Map Genie to clean up the rest.
See, would you have to go back to a chapter to get the collectibles?
There are some in collectibles that are only in chapters. So if you use PowerPixel's guide, he lists out, it's like, hey, this one you can only get in this mission because it's like an accessible area. So it's like, get these ones, and then like the rest of it you can kind of clean up yourself.
Okay, cool.
So essentially finish the game on Classic, go back and just check, your collectibles are listed as the cigarette cards are listed with a number. You can do the chronological order for all the pulp magazines and find out which one you're missing. It's pretty easy to do. So as soon as I finished Mafia on PC, I finally went back to the original and then just started cleaning it all up. Not the original, the Xbox stack, and cleaning everything that I missed.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if there was any. No, it's pretty much been smooth sailing, and it's just such a good experience.
Yeah, I've found that the quality of life when you're driving and it telling you with the GPS when to turn left and right or whatever, with the signs, the actual literal signposting in the game to tell you where to go without having to look at your map is amazing. So
speed limiter, the cops are easy to get away from. Like they're not ridiculous like GTA.
Do you know what?
Just like a really engaging story.
Do you know what the interesting story behind the scenes for why that game kind of is the way it is? Is that apparently they originally built it as they wanted to make a racing game. And so that's like they wanted to make a racing game, so they built a whole engine around it, and then they basically got denied. So they got this Mafia license, and they got told they had to make it GTA style cloning because Mafia came out like a year or two after GTA 3, I think it was.
2002.
Yeah, right. Which is I think it was like a year after. I think GTA 3 was 2001. Anyway, so that actually explains why there are so many like car missions in that game. Is because they were like, we built a fucking engine for a racing game, so you're going to be driving a shitload. Which kind of works because it's like if you think about like GTA games, like so much of that is driving.
All right, so I talked about the race settings and that. What was the other thing? Put on aim assistance on high because it is native for classic, I think.
Yeah.
And also enable the skip drive function.
Yes, very helpful.
Otherwise, for the amount of time you're going to be driving around for collectibles and that, it's better off just to like skip sections of the story unless you're really invested in the dialogue.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I have already played.
And usually it won't skip if you have like something important going on. It's usually just
like if there's if you're doing the race mission and that, for example, you won't be able to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, really enjoyed it. So I did those two, and then I decided, you know what? I'll go back to Mafia 2. So now I'm going through what's the first DLC? Is it Jimmy's Vendetta?
No, I think
Jimmy's Vendetta and Joe's Adventure.
Joe's Adventure, I think, is the first one. Yeah, Jimmy's Vendetta.
Okay, well, I'm doing Jimmy's Vendetta.
Got it. Yeah.
Which I've only like put an hour or two into it so far. Seems pretty good. I feel like I'm playing Bruce Willis Simulator.
yeah, fair.
It just reminds me too much of Bruce Willis. But not looking forward to the 1,000 miles thing.
Yeah,
I've got to figure out how to do the glitch for that.
Driving to that
I want to
shop
finish
window.
this one off though, and then jump to Mafia 2 Definitive.
Yeah, no,
Just,
sounds good.
I
Stewie mentions that he's
make
only
one
played Mafia 3, but found it was kind of boring. I totally agree. That's Mafia. You can kind of skip Mafia 3. I think it's kind of
Mafia 3 is the one with all the missables and that. I think the most interesting bit of Mafia 3 is having the protagonist for 2.
Yes, as one of the characters. Yeah, exactly. And like that
They're
whole
having
kind
this-
of balancing between the three people is kind of interesting. But in reality, it just turns into an Ubisoft open world mission fast bullshit.
Missables and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I will mention though, I was doing one of the missions where you've got to go around and blow up the fuel stations.
Yeah.
And I drove up there. There was an NPC behind the fuel tank, blew up the fuel tank, and then the other one just ran into the fire. Like I was there for 5 to 10 seconds, and the whole place was in flames. And I'm like, I didn't do this. This isn't me.
Well,
I'll take it. So I just drove to the other fuel station, but I was just trying to record it the whole time. And I don't think you can record Xbox 360.
No, I don't think so. No.
Content. Yeah. I was like, man, this would have been so great to show everybody.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so mostly this week it's essentially been Mafia, Mafia 2, and Evil West. And Diablo 4, which I'll let Keo get into.
Yeah, I might as well do that now.
Yeah,
so my goal was basically to level myself up enough to defeat Lilith by myself, which I managed to do, and which is good, which was easier. And then I'm like, yeah, Shadow, I can give you a carry, whatever. We go into this game, and the first time we do it, we actually drew Lee from the Xbox cast in as well. So we went in 3-player, and it was difficult. It was so much harder.
I think that was the second time we did it.
I think it was the second day. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, so we were doing all right, and then we brought Lee into it, and it was even harder. And then we dropped it back. After an hour or so, we're like, no, Lee, we're just gonna have to leave you alone. He's like, yeah, I'll just go do this other stuff. And it was it took us like 2 more days or something.
It was really interesting because
I
was doing some Call of Duty at like Modern Warfare 3 and just kind of checking in on you guys and seeing what's going on and just hearing you play through the stuff and bash your head against the same fucking boss fight and changing strategies and different characters and builds and yeah.
So like I think it probably took us 4 or 5 nights.
Yeah, overall probably a couple of hours or so. Like
yeah,
to really nut it out. And in the end, you were staying alive in the whole battle until the very end where you died. So
Yeah, it was. So the first 2 nights, I think it was getting the first phase down pat.
yeah.
And then I got to a point where this is season 1 me that has been higher level to 100 from
Yeah.
70.
Which I helped with as well. So
Yeah, which Keo
Yeah.
helped with as well. So then it was like getting the right gear and that realizing that the strategy that worked for Necromancer back in season 1, or when the game first came out, is wildly outdated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was doing barely anything, and then respecking everything. Getting Keo to give me essentially being a gold digger.
Yeah.
Being gifted 20 million gold.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, he ran out of gold to repair his armor.
I kept on repairing it. It was just like, Keo, I got a problem. It's like, oh, I got you. So yeah, it was like the third and fourth night we got so. Okay, so we got through the first phase and all. I was like, oh yeah, and then I completely forgot the love has 2 phases.
Yeah.
So the whole section of that, we would get in there, we would wipe her completely out in terms of HP.
Yeah.
But then you've got to do each phase on. Until the end.
So the way that works is that there's the play field essentially, but then Lilith goes about and breaks down 2 or 3 different sections until there's breaks down the top half, and then it's a little diamond, and then breaks off the right corner and then the left corner, and you're left with this little play field. So we would basically, my build would wipe it down to, in that second phase, to no HP, but it would be a sliver of HP until the very last phase, where then she'd die instantly. But there's just these little blue orbs that would just fly around the map the whole time. And I don't know if they were added separately. If they were there before, I'd have to watch my old video to see if they were there. But as soon as they did the latest update where they redid some stuff, I noticed them more. And doing this, it was they were basically trouble. The thing that I was dying on was you had to dodge these things, and it was a mess. So
the problem is the boss fight feels more like RNG now, or we'll just get lucky in terms of avoiding those orbs rather than actual skill.
The orbs were not consistent, if anything else. So
sounds like Diablo.
Yep, but we got through it. I'm still playing a little bit. Was trying to decide whether or not I was going to go straight into the DLC when it came out. But this week they have a goblin event. You remember when we were playing, they had just goblins everywhere?
Yep.
And now with this season, some people, I haven't gotten one yet, they're getting the new mythic versions of the gear, which are even more powerful.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so, I've heard there's some big changes.
Yeah. And there's some heaps of changes for Season 6 too.
Yeah.
A level cap increase, all that kind of stuff. And then basically I'm just going around getting a shitload of gold, trying to get as many pieces up as I can to Masterwork 12 or whatever, just because at the moment.
I mean,
so
you'll need to be ready to run us through the DLC, right?
Exactly right. We don't know what's going to happen.
We have no fucking idea what they're going to throw at us.
So assuming they add achievements, which they probably will, but yeah, so I will hopefully be able to carry a little bit.
Amazing.
I guess. But
Stoopy says he's been getting really good at reviving Shadow as well. So that's a shared experience.
Yeah. There was a joke I made the other night about having hours and hours worth of video of Shadow dying all recorded on my hard drive. So that was good.
Hey, I was participating in the bi-monthly challenge.
Get your ass handed to you. Yeah, exactly.
Every 60 days challenge. Yeah.
But yeah, Stubby's still keen on Lords, so I need to download it. But I'll delete.
I think you two should do Lords together. We should just drop it, make it easy for you, and
let's
smash it out.
Lords sounds like fun actually. Need to get some good guides. Anything else, Scare?
The only other thing, when I left here the podcast 2 weeks ago, I always said that I was at the end of Dead Island, Riptide.
Right.
We did the last few missions and completed the game, but it's one of those things where you go back a different day with a game where there's a person who's the host and there's a person who's not the host.
Yep.
And it synced the mission for Jester. and didn't sync the mission for me. So my mission 10 or 11 or whatever the fuck it is missing as not completed because it's completed on his and not for me because leaving the game at whatever point didn't save my progress. And then, so I basically need to play through it again. And I know Shadow said he wants to play it again. He wants to actually play it, the 360 version, because he got it recently. So,
yeah, I got a whole bunch of series during
so, yeah. So I can essentially just play it through again with Shadow and as like a quick run or something and still probably pick up that achievement. I have to do a whole run to do all of the quests anyway. So whether or not Shadow wants to do it that way, with me leveled up and we just do all the quests as well. But I mean, the co-op stuff's the problem. Like, if we have the same problem that I had, then he's still playing through it again in co-op because you got to do it in co-op to get that achievement. So it's like we just breeze through the story and then worry about it again separately later on. So, but yeah, I think that's about it for the last couple of weeks. So,
okay. And then I've just been playing a couple other things. So I talked a bit about Humanity. I don't know if that was last week or the week before. A game where you play a little dog who leads people around and creates commands for them like a 3D Lemmings. Game's got 7 different areas. There's, I think it's like, 50 levels or something. There's quite a few. It was really fun. It starts off really good and it ends really well, but I think the middle gets a bit muddled in like the level of complexity involved in solving some of these puzzles is kind of like hard to wrap your brain around. But they introduce new mechanics all the time, so it starts off with like, okay, you have the ability to point people in directions, and then you get like a jump, and then you get like a long jump or a high jump, and then you get like a float ability. So if someone hits the float, they can fall down from whatever height, or they can, when they do a jump, they go much, much further. And then it starts getting into things like, okay, well, you can push blocks, and then you can give them, then you start running into like enemies, and so you start giving your guys weapons. And so you lead them into like, okay, well, I've got 2 rows of guys on my side coming up, and they've got 4 rows coming towards me. So I need to be tactical about like, how do I mass my forces in a way that overwhelms them enough without being overwhelmed on my side? It's like, how do I do a flanking maneuver? How do I do puzzles, or how do I block them off? And it starts getting really, really interesting and complex. And then you start giving them guns, and then you start being able to control them, like doing like a sort of like, they start turning them into like stealth missions where the dog gets the ability to basically do a follow command and drag the guys around yourself. So you're kind of moving them like it's an RTS. And like the complexity and the level of like change ups they do, it reminds me a lot of like the original Braid game, where they're kind of like every level, every section had like a different interesting mechanic they kind of played with.
Yeah, okay.
I had a really, really good, I had a really good time with it. It's getting 100% on it is a real huge pain in the ass though. But like, if you ever get stuck on a level, like you just hit start and there's a solution video. Like the game wants you to finish it, and it's like, hey, if you get stuck, just like, here's a solution video. We'll show you how to do it, or a way to do it.
You don't get penalized in terms of achievements?
No, at least I don't think so. There's nothing about it in the achievements. I just used a regular video guide from when I got stuck. So I did most of the normal levels myself, and then I kind of got frustrated with some stuff, and I was like, fuck it, because there's also like collectibles in each of the levels, and so it's not enough to just finish the level. You actually have to go and collect these things and also bring them to the exits, and so sometimes that can really fuck things up.
Or... Like chapter selected?
Yep, absolutely. You can jump between levels whenever you want. There's like optional, there's like branching paths, so you have to do all the main paths, but there are optional, more difficult trials. You do have to do them for 100% completion, but if you just want to get through the story, it's very interesting and weird and trippy. I mean, it's made by the same people the guys who did Tetris Effect and Rez, and so you're expecting some weird, trippy kind of question stuff, like what the fuck's going on. Not really sure, but really, really solid game underneath it. The only real tricky bit is that you need to complete like 10 hard difficulty user created levels. So you need to go and basically look at the user created levels and find what ranking they're sitting at. And so the ranking for them will go from expert to hard to normal to easy, depending on how many people have played it versus how many people have completed it. So there's a video guide on TA at the moment that shows you like a list of like 20 different hard levels. But by the time you get to them, depending on when you hear this and when you play it, they may have gone down to easy or medium, depending on how many people have finished them. So if you want to get that achievement done, try and maybe start it as quick as possible. A lot of the puzzles aren't too overly difficult. It's people being kind of lazy and wanting to just breeze through it. But yeah.
Is it just herding people around though?
Kind of, yeah. For the most part.
It's like lemmings.
It is, yeah, very lemmings-esque. And basically, it's like you need to get your guys, your path stream of humans from one side of a thing to a goal, and whether that's like by splitting them up into different groups, or whether you need to go and like push blocks, or whether you need to fight things or hide, or make them run off a cliff for a bit while you try and figure out the rest of the puzzle. Yeah, it's really, really good fun, and it's kind of there's some fun, interesting challenges. Like there's 7 different sequences, like chapters, and each of them have like one level that has like a special requirement achievement that's quite difficult, where it's like, do this without losing anyone, or do this without using a certain command or whatever. And so it's like an extra a challenge for an achievement. It's also on Game Pass. Like I said, I've been playing it kind of on PC and Xbox. Works really well on both.
Cool.
And if you use a guide, you'll get through it in like 12 hours, maybe 15 total. And then the last thing, I've been working on my 360 backlog. I went back to Borderlands the pre-sequel. There's a guy on TA who's power leveling people, so he power leveled me up to like level 50, which is very helpful. Makes the game a breeze. Well, I was looking to do this co-op, but I was reading on there's a achievement for getting all the side quests, and it potentially runs into a very similar issue to what Keo was talking about with Dead Island, in that it's like it's really easy to fuck your progress and not know what's wrong with it and have to redo the whole game. So I'm just going to kind of try and breeze through it as much as I can.
Okay.
The guy on TA is still like, he's super nice. He's willing to help with this and Borderlands 2 if you guys need to get levels up for them. I'm just going to try and get it done. I just want to. I finished the first DLC, but yeah.
Is your strategy to go through the whole game and then go back and do the stuff that you're supposed to do with 4 people?
Yes. What I'm going to do is basically like not, because the stuff for 4 people, I think there's like 1 or 2 side quests. I'm just going to avoid those until the end of the game. I'm going to do everything else and just kind
of course.
So I'm going to try and drag as many of us in as possible, and doesn't matter if you loaded level 1 characters. We'll just get in there. We'll just do the quest, get the achievement, and then we should be sweet.
That would be good. Yeah, we want to do that.
But yeah, it's fine. It's, it is definitely one of the weaker Borderlands games. The game's not as funny. It is cool that there are a lot of, it's obviously Australian developed, so there's a lot of Australian accents and voice acting and stuff. There's a whole quest for looking for a giant empty billabong, and you got to find a guy called Jolly Swagman, and so it's again, it's all just fucking music lyrics and shit. And like, anyone who doesn't understand anything about Australian music would have no idea what the fuck is going on.
It's a huge in joke. This whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing is just like, if you like, there was even like I found an audio log where they're like, hey, yeah, so these like, because you're on the moon, so it's like, hey, you have to like have these oxygen things, like oxygen tanks. And it's like, hey, yeah, I got the oxygen tanks, but like the design, the font on them looks weird. So it sounds, instead of saying like O2, it looks like it says OZ. So they all say OZ. There's all like, so you have to get like OZ packs or whatever. And so it's just Australia joke after Australia joke. Like it's just, it's very fucking funny. But it's also like, it's not as clever. Again, like Borderlands 2 was never clever, but I don't know.
Like, let's face it, any of our jokes actually,
Yeah, and Claptrap is still so fucking annoying, even when you're playing as him. But yeah. And so yeah, that's pretty much me. I haven't been playing nearly as much. I want to try and get back to some games, but I've just been so busy this week. All right, let's get into leaderboards. In third place, we have Thrash Forever with 18,920. In second place, we have Basham with 20,705. And in first place, we have Northern Lass with 20,822. Some big numbers this week. Thrash getting knocked off his top spot for a change. Completions.
Could you say he got thrashed?
He did. Well, I'm not going to say that because he's still putting up more points than I put up in a month. But yeah.
Yep.
Completions. Keo, do you want to run through those?
Yep. Of course, Splice did. Brotato. Shane Firehawk D did Front Mission Evolved and Defenders of Ardania. Rapture did Borderlands 3. Alpha D Pills here did B Simulator and The Video Kid. And Vex173 did MW2 Remastered. That's Modern Warfare 2 for all those folks out there that don't know. That's what we're sitting at today.
Great. I really want to pick that up at some stage because that was the remaster. It's just the campaign for Modern Warfare 2, which is like
great.
Yeah. But it's also like never been on sale and is so fucking expensive.
It is.
Yep.
All right, we also have the Word Challenge, everyone's favorite competition, where I come up with a game and you go on our Discord and the Word Challenge channel and take a guess. And if you get it right, a gift pops up and you win $20 New Zealand.
Yay!
each week I give away a clue. We're starting to get right towards the end here. The first clue was that the sequel to this game is on Xbox. Second clue was the servers for this game are currently closed. Third was that it's a licensed property. And the fourth one is this has 4 playable factions and 2 campaigns. So that's actually 2.
Hey, that's not a Kirby level clue.
That's a double clue actually, because I'm giving you 2 bits of information. And my wife has put the witness in chat, so I'm gonna have to ban her for that. So get on there. I've really made it. There's not that many games on that list anymore, so I'll be very curious to see what kind of guesses there are. So get in there. Obviously, if you listen to this live, you get it before it, but I'll be posting the clue on Tuesday when the episode comes out for everyone else. So best of luck to you. All right. Patreon, Cameron.
Yep. Let me just get into it. We want to give special thanks to Lee Howard, Mikhail KV, Hackenpone, Natalator, Mad Lefty, or Admiral Awesome, Comfy Skills, Happy Moogles, Cavalier 07, Obed Cloud, Mark B, McLovin Legend, Message, Life for Legacy, and McNulty. The reason I'm laughing then is I did them out of order.
You did them out of order
for
no fucking reason when it's the same as it has been for the last fucking 100 episodes.
No, it hasn't, because I did it the last time I was on the episode.
You did it backwards,
Remember,
yes.
I did them back to front.
Yeah. Huge thank you to everyone. Patreon.com/Hall of Gamers if you want to help support the show. All the money we put straight back into the show to pay for things like Zoom and hosting and all that kind of other bullshit that we need to keep the show running. All right, and that's pretty much it for us. Xbox Hall of Gamers, place to find us on Twitch if you want to watch us live for our next episode, or you want to catch some of the VODs. Otherwise, we're on YouTube and every audio platform on demand. What else have we got going on? Cameron, have you got anything you want to shill?
Father's Day. Everybody have a good Father's Day on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the ANZ timing is much better than the US one. Yeah. Cool.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Kia?
Yeah. Cool. So I'm still at the same place as I am in Resident Evil 2 for streaming, as for a couple of weeks. It's at Kia Live at Home on Twitch, and basically everywhere else. You can find me at How to Fix Gaming on YouTube as well, though, for VODs for those streams and anything else I put up, which I've been putting up some little shorts, stuff like that from Diablo and things like that. Maybe I need a montage of shadow deaths or something. So we'll see. But
all right, and
nobody would watch that.
No, exactly. Quality content. What are you talking about? And for me, I'm Neomaster on everything, True Achievements, Xbox, and Discord. As always, a huge thank you to my co-host and to our audience and to our Patreons and everyone who helps support this show. That's been episode 138. We will catch you guys next week. See you later.
Peace out.
Bye, everyone.